evening, and that, of course, is the so-called spy tape saga, where the President and the National Prosecuting Authority are off to the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein to try and have a decision by the High Court here in Gauteng to be reversed, where President Zuma is facing the spectre of 783 corruption and racketeering charges. And to talk to us a little bit more about that, we're now joined by political analyst Professor Somadoda Fikeni. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, as always, Prof. You know, we keep on saying D-Day, but they seem to be often, and they seem to keep getting kicked down the road further and further. What are your expectations about the next 2 days in Bloemfontein?
Well, I do think that they will actually be adding to the cumulative legal pressures on the president, because you do have a wide range of happenings around. The judgment in KZN was quite a blow to a province leadership that is strongly behind him and has been leading the charge for Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma's campaign. And then you do have quite a number of legal cases or allegations like the one you just ran now of the public protector, and many other people associated with the president having some legal challenges or being challenged in parliament for one thing or another. So cumulatively it will not take one blow, but the cumulative impact raises the political cost against the president when he has to be spending his time answering to some of these charges. But one other very important factor here, the issue of the spy tapes, raise another issue which is comparable to one recently happening on how these were secured, because it's the same issue of the state capture emails, where others who are actually supporting him are raising the question of the legitimacy of the acquisition of these emails. It's the same issue that was raised around the issue of the spy tapes.
So you're suggesting you can't claim that information is illegally gathered in one instance, but on another you use that information regardless of how it was acquired?
Certainly, especially when the same role players seem to take one position in one instance, and when confronted with instances which may not favor them, they take the direct opposite. Therefore, the lack of consistency here. So it then raised the question of whether, when the information is acquired by any means, can be used to legitimately arrive at a certain legal position.
Prof, the independence of the National Prosecuting Authority has been brought into question quite a bit in recent months. I wonder, how unusual is it for a National Prosecuting Authority to join forces with an accused to go to the Supreme Court to have charges set aside?
It is unusual in a sense, but what is most important in this case, against the cumulative effect of accusations that the NPA itself might be politically compromised and influenced, once they see this as a joint common cause, it will simply add to that legitimacy crisis, if anything. And it adds to other pressures where people have been raising questions as to why the NPA and the other law enforcement agencies, such as the Hawks, have not moved with deliberate speed on the current wave or deluge of allegations.
If the courts go against the President and the NPA, what will that then mean for the President? You talked about it won't be one blow, but certainly facing 783 charges is quite a severe blow.
It is a severe blow if it comes to that, if the charges were to be reopened, because in the first instance it will split his energies from the political process of campaigning to the political cost of facing these legal charges, because many of these, up to this moment, the president has been a Teflon man where nothing seemed to have been sticking so far. And if finally you start having some of these legal cases, then surely it will weaken him politically, and it will raise the voices of those who have been saying that his continued presence may have political cost down the line in 2019.
We know that there are a number of people that have been speaking out against the president within the party, particularly in the last sort of year or so. But these charges are not new. This story goes back a number of years now. Why do you think that there was less noise back then than there is now? It seems as if the charges were fine then, but now they seem to be quite affronted by them.
All what has happened is a number of things. In a political system where you do have a fair amount of patronage, any president serving his last term towards the end of that term become a sitting duck. He no longer has the influence of dispensing the goods in the long term, so his opponents at times find an opportunity to rise. But also the campaign to succeed him as the leader of the political party has added to some of those voices. And ultimately the deepening crisis, political crisis within the ANC, as signified by the progressive, sometimes dramatic loss of the ANC grip on the metros in the last election, and the infighting that has deepened within the ANC, with the veterans breaking ranks, and some of the ministers within his own cabinet, the NEC members, breaking ranks because they are experiencing this deepening crisis. So they have found their voice because of what they see as a corrosive and continuing political cost of limping from one challenge to the other without any decisive solution.
There's party members that have consistently said that, the disciplining of party members is unequal because as soon as this court winds up its own proceedings, Makosi Khoza, for example, will be facing disciplinary hearings in KwaZulu-Natal. And some people are saying that that's unfair, that she's facing charges from the party. But as you say, the president himself is facing legal battles on a number of fronts, seemingly without any action from the party.
Certainly, that's what happens at times when a party starts weakening institutions, values and principles, because individual leaders and the leaders of factions within the party start becoming stronger than the party itself, to a point where party might look helpless to deal with some of the issues. At that moment, the integrity committees, the disciplinary committees, and even the notion of what it means to bring the party into disrepute start losing any meaning, because if you can demonstrate your political muscle within the party, such principles and benchmarks mean virtually nothing.
All right, Professor, that's where we're going to leave it this evening. Hopefully we'll catch up with you after the proceedings to see perhaps what the consequences of the outcomes might be. Professor Somadoda Fikeni speaking to us from our studios in Pretoria. We take a quick break, and after the break, find out what the Deputy President has